Captain Li Huan stepped off his transport ship and felt the salty air of Thalassa hit his face. The ocean world stretched endlessly in every direction, with floating cities bobbing on the waves like giant metal islands. But something was wrong. The usual busy sounds of a thriving colony were missing. Instead, there was an eerie quiet that made his skin crawl. The spaceport was nearly empty. A few alien traders hurried past with their heads down, not making eye contact. Huan had seen fear before, but this was different. This was the kind of terror that made entire civilizations pack up and leave. He made his way to the central command station, where Governor Thex, a tall reptilian Orcs, was arguing with his advisors. The moment Thex saw Huan, his yellow eyes lit up with desperate hope. "Human, you came!" Thex's forked tongue flicked nervously. "We thought no one would answer our distress call." Huan looked around the command center. Holographic displays showed red zones covering most of the ocean. Ship debris markers dotted the map like a graveyard. "What exactly am I dealing with here?" "The deep Kraken," whispered one of the Vith advisors, her insect-like wings buzzing anxiously. "It rises from the deepest trenches. Ships, stations, even. Our best hunters, nothing survives." Thex pulled up a grainy video feed. The screen showed a massive shadow moving beneath the waves, easily the size of a city block. Tentacles thick as subway tunnels whipped through the water, crushing a mining vessel like it was made of paper. The creature's eyes glowed with an intelligence that sent chills down Huan's spine. 17 ships lost in the past month, Thex continued. The Vraxian Empire sent their best deep-sea hunters. The Kraken destroyed their entire fleet in minutes. Even the warrior clans of my own people refuse to go near the deep waters anymore. "What about the bounty?" Huan asked, studying the footage. 50 million credits, Thex said quietly. "Dead or alive. But no one will take it. The Galactic Hunters. Guild declared it a suicide mission. 3 different mercenary companies turned us down. We're running out of options." Huan watched the video loop again. The Kraken moved with purpose, not just animal rage. It seemed to be protecting something, guarding specific areas of the ocean floor. Most creatures that size were slow and clumsy, but this one moved like a dancer underwater. "The colonies are evacuating," added the Vith advisor. "If we can't stop this thing, Thalassa will be completely abandoned within weeks. Millions of lives depend on someone brave enough or crazy enough to face that monster." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at Huan, their last hope standing in worn space gear and scuffed boots. He didn't look like much compared to the armored hunters and warriors who had already tried and failed. Huan scratched his chin and grinned. "Well, I didn't come all this way just to sightsee. You'll take the contract?" Thex couldn't hide his surprise. "Sure. How hard can it be?" Huan shrugged like he was talking about fixing a broken engine, not hunting a legendary sea monster. "Besides, humans don't know when to quit. It's probably our worst trait, but sometimes it comes in handy." The aliens exchanged glances. They had heard stories about human stubbornness, but seeing it in person was something else entirely. While every other species in the galaxy had declared the deep Kraken impossible to defeat, this human was already asking where he could rent a submarine. The next morning, Huan was checking out submarine rentals at the harbor when someone tapped him on the shoulder. He turned around to see a young woman with determined eyes and a data pad clutched in her hands. "You're the human who took the Kraken contract," she said. It wasn't a question. "Guilty as charged." "And you are?" "Dr. Park Suna, marine xenobiologist." She held out her hand for a firm handshake. "I need to come with you." Huan raised an eyebrow. "Lady, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but this isn't exactly a research expedition. I'm hunting the galaxy's most dangerous sea monster. That's exactly why you need me." Suna pulled up holographic data on her pad. "Everyone who's tried to kill this thing has failed because they don't understand what they're dealing with. They see a monster. I see a highly intelligent creature with complex behaviors." The harbor around them bustled with activity as alien dock workers loaded supplies. But Suna's passion cut through all the noise. She gestured excitedly at her research data. "Look at these sonar readings from the attacks. The Kraken doesn't just randomly destroy ships. There's a pattern. It targets vessels that enter specific coordinates, always the same depth range, always near the thermal vents on the ocean floor." Huan studied the data. She was right. The attack sites formed a rough circle around something deep underwater. So it's territorial. Most big predators are. No, it's more than that. Suna's eyes lit up. Watch this. She played an audio file that sounded like whale songs mixed with electronic music. These are bioelectric pulses the Kraken produces. I've been analyzing them for months. It's not just noise, it's communication. Communication with what? That's what I need to find out. But here's the interesting part. She enhanced the audio, isolating different frequencies. The patterns change based on the moon's cycles and tidal flows. The creature is responding to its environment in ways we've never seen before. Juan leaned against a shipping crate, thinking. Every other hunter had gone in guns blazing and ended up as fish food. Maybe a different approach wasn't such a crazy idea. You realize this thing has tentacles the size of subway trains, right? And it glows in the dark like some kind of nightmare Christmas tree? Suna didn't flinch. I've spent my entire career studying dangerous sea life, the giant tunnel worms of Kepler-7, the acid jellies of the Vortex Nebula. Size doesn't scare me. Ignorance does. And you think understanding this thing will help us beat it? I think understanding it might mean we don't have to beat it at all. She closed her datapad and met his eyes. Every other approach has failed. Maybe it's time to try something completely different. Juan found himself grinning. There was something refreshing about her confidence. While the rest of the galaxy ran away from the Kraken, this scientist wanted to have a conversation with it. All right, Doc, you've got yourself a ride, but I'm still bringing the big guns, just in case your translation skills don't work out. Fair enough, Suna smiled back. But I have a feeling we're going to discover something amazing down there, something that will change how the entire galaxy thinks about these creatures. As they walked toward the submarine dock, Juan couldn't shake the feeling that this hunt was going to be unlike anything he'd ever experienced. For the first time in his career, he was partnering with someone who wanted to solve the mystery instead of just blowing it up. Juan and Suna were loading equipment onto their rented submarine when heavy footsteps echoed across the dock. They turned to see a towering figure approaching through the morning mist. The Orcs warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, her reptilian scales scarred from countless battles, but something was different about her posture. Instead of the proud stance typical of her species, she carried herself like someone carrying a heavy burden. "Human," she called out in a voice rough as gravel. "I am Commander Chris Nala of the 3rd Battle Clutch. I demand passage on your vessel." Juan set down the plasma rifle he was carrying. "Demand? That's a strong word, Commander. Last I checked, this was my mission." Nala's yellow eyes flashed with barely contained rage, but not at him. 3 weeks ago, the Deep Kraken destroyed my entire battle group, 12 ships, 300 warriors, all dead because I led them into those cursed waters. Suna stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. "You survived the encounter. That makes you incredibly valuable. What did you observe?" "I observed failure," Nala spat, her forked tongue flicking in agitation. The beast rose from the depths like a living mountain. Our weapons barely scratched its hide. It wrapped our flagship in its tentacles and crushed it like an egg. I only survived because my escape pod malfunctioned and drifted away from the battle. Around the dock, other Corex workers gave Nala a wide berth. Juan noticed how they avoided eye contact, whispering among themselves in their native tongue. The body language was unmistakable. "Shame. Your people blame you," Juan observed. Nala's shoulders sagged slightly. "In Corex culture, a commander who loses their battle clutch is considered dishonored. I am forbidden from leading warriors again. My family name is tainted. I am nothing more than a walking reminder of defeat." "That's rough," Juan said simply. "But I'm still not seeing why I should take you along. No offense, but your last encounter with this thing didn't go so well." The insult hit home, and Nala's claws extended instinctively. For a moment, Juan thought she might attack. Instead, she forced herself to calm down. "Because I know its patterns, its speed, its reach." Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "I know how it thinks in battle. The Kraken doesn't just attack randomly. It studies its prey, learns their weaknesses, then strikes with precision." Suna exchanged a glance with Juan. "That matches my research data. The creature shows tactical intelligence, More than that, Nala continued. It seemed to understand our military formations. When we tried to flank it, the beast anticipated our movements. It fought like it had studied Orcs' battle tactics. Juan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. A warrior who had actually faced the Kraken and lived to tell about it was rare. Most encounters ended with no survivors. What do your people say about you joining this mission? Nala's laugh was bitter. They say I seek death to restore my honor. They're probably right. But if I die fighting this monster, at least my death will have meaning. See, that's where... You're wrong, Juan said, surprising both women. Honor isn't about what others think of you. It's about what you do when everything goes wrong. You didn't abandon your warriors. You survived to fight another day. That takes guts. For the first time since arriving at the dock, Nala stood a little straighter. You would accept a dishonored commander on your crew? I'd accept the experienced warrior who knows the enemy. Juan extended his hand. Besides, humans have a saying, the best revenge is living well. Help us stop this thing, and you'll have saved more lives than your battle clutch ever could. Nala stared at the offered hand for a long moment, then clasped it with her scaled palm. The submarine deep hunter cut through Thalassa's dark waters like a metal fish diving toward the ocean floor. 3 miles down, sunlight was just a memory. Outside the reinforced windows, bioluminescent creatures drifted past like living stars in an alien night sky. Pressure's holding steady, Juan called out from the pilot's seat, his hands dancing across controls that most aliens found too complex. Hull integrity at 100%. So far, so good. Suna hunched over her equipment station, surrounded by screens showing sonar readings and bioacoustic data. We're approaching the outer edge of the Kraken's territory. Thermal vents are showing increased activity. Nala stood at the weapons console, her massive frame somehow fitting perfectly into the combat station. Her claws traced over the firing controls with practiced ease. All weapon systems armed and ready. But remember, conventional firepower failed my battle clutch. That's because your people fight like everyone expects them to, Juan grinned, suddenly spinning the submarine in a corkscrew pattern that made both his passengers grab for handholds. Predictable formations, standard attack runs, time to try something different. The submarine's lights illuminated strange coral formations and deep-sea plants swaying in the current. Everything looked peaceful, almost beautiful. But the silence felt heavy like the calm before a storm. Contact! Suna's voice cut through the quiet. Something massive bearing 270. It's huge. On the main screen, a shadow moved in the distance. Even from miles away, they could see it was enormous. The Kraken glided through the water with surprising grace for something so large, its tentacles trailing behind like deadly ribbons. They'd seen us, Nala reported, watching her tactical display. The creature is changing course, moving to intercept. Instead of running or preparing for a standard attack, Juan did something unexpected. He cut the engines and let the submarine drift sideways, rolling it at odd angles like a piece of floating debris. What are you doing? Nala demanded. Confusing it, Juan replied, occasionally firing the thrusters in random bursts. Every other ship it's faced moved in straight lines, followed predictable patterns. Let's see how it handles chaos. The Kraken slowed its approach, clearly puzzled by the submarine's erratic behavior. Its massive head tilted as it studied this strange new prey that didn't act like the others. Conventional sonar is useless at this range, Suna muttered, adjusting her equipment. The creature's bioelectric field is interfering with our instruments, but wait. She switched to her experimental bioacoustic sensors. There! I'm picking up its communication pulses. It's trying to understand what we are. The water around them suddenly darkened as the Kraken moved closer. Its tentacles, each one thicker than telephone poles, began probing the water around their vessel. It's testing us, Nala observed, her warrior instincts sharp even in this alien environment. Looking for weaknesses. Juan kept the submarine moving unpredictably, sometimes accelerating suddenly, other times stopping dead in the water. The Kraken's tentacles swept past them, missing by inches. Then everything went wrong at once. A massive tentacle slammed into their hull with the force of a meteor impact. Alarms blared as metal groaned under impossible pressure. Another tentacle wrapped around the submarine's midsection and began to squeeze. Hull breach in Section 3, Suna shouted over the chaos. "Emergency power to structural integrity!" Juan fought to keep control as the submarine spun wildly in the Kraken's grip. Nala's combat training kicked in. She activated the external plasma cutters, designed for mining, but deadly effective against organic tissue. The beams sliced into the tentacle wrapped around their hull, causing the Kraken to release them, with what sounded like a roar of pain transmitted through the water. "We're free." "But not for long," she reported. "It's coming back, and it looks angry." The Kraken's eyes, each one larger than their entire submarine, glowed with an intelligence that was both alien and terrifyingly familiar. This wasn't just a mindless beast. It was a thinking, learning predator, and they had just made it very, very mad. The Kraken circled their damaged submarine like a massive predator, sizing up wounded prey. Emergency lights bathed the cabin in red as Suna frantically worked her controls, trying to understand what they were dealing with. "It's not attacking again," Nala observed, her claws still hovering over the weapon systems. "Why is it waiting?" Juan kept the submarine steady, watching the creature's movements through the reinforced windows. "Maybe it's thinking, planning its next move." "That's exactly what it's doing," Suna said, her voice filled with excitement despite their desperate situation. "Look at these readings. The bioelectric pulses are more complex now. It's not just communication anymore, it's analysis." The Kraken's massive form drifted closer, its tentacles moving in slow, deliberate patterns. Instead of the violent thrashing from their earlier encounter, it seemed almost careful now, cautious. "There's something else," Suna continued, adjusting her sensors to penetrate deeper into the ocean floor. "The thermal signatures down there aren't just from volcanic activity. There's something organic, something big." On her screen, fuzzy shapes appeared in the deepest part of the trench. At first they looked like boulders or coral formations, but as Suna enhanced the image, the truth became clear. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Eggs. Hundreds of them." Juan and Nala crowded around her. Display. The thermal readings showed massive oval shapes, each one easily the size of a small building, clustered around the underwater thermal vents. The warm water from the vents was keeping them at the perfect temperature. "The Kraken isn't just territorial," Suna explained, pieces of the puzzle falling into place. "It's a parent, a mother protecting her nursery." Nala's warrior instinct suddenly made sense of everything. "That's why it studies its enemies, why it learns their tactics. A mother will do anything to protect her young." The revelation changed. Everything. Outside their submarine, the Kraken floated motionless, waiting. Its massive eyes seemed to watch them with what could only be described as worry. Not the rage of a mindless monster, but the desperate concern of a parent facing a threat to its children. "No wonder it's so intelligent," Juan said quietly. "It has to be. Protecting that many eggs from deep-sea predators, maintaining the perfect environment, fighting off anything that gets too close. That's not just instinct, that's love." Suna pulled up data from the previous attacks. Every ship it destroyed was heading toward or near the egg site. Mining vessels, research stations, military patrols. It saw them all as threats to its clutch. "So, what do we do?" Nala asked. "The colonies above still need protection, but we can't kill a mother defending her children." Juan stared at the eggs on the screen, then at the Kraken floating outside. Every fiber of his human brain told him this was impossible, but sometimes impossible was exactly what the situation needed. "We move them," he said simply. Both women stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "Move them where?" Suna asked. "There's a protected trench system about 50 miles north of here. Deeper, safer, with natural thermal vents. Perfect nursery, away from all the shipping lanes and colonies." "You want to relocate hundreds of Kraken eggs?" Nala's voice rose in disbelief. "Each one weighs several tons." "Sometimes the crazy plan is the right plan," Juan declared, already working out the logistics in his head. "We get heavy lift cargo. Subs, specialized transport containers. Maybe some of those industrial gravity lifters from the mining operations." "The mother will never let us near her eggs," Nala pointed out. "She will if we convince her we're trying to help." Juan looked at Suna. "Think you can talk to her with that bioacoustic equipment of yours?" Suna's eyes widened as she realized what he was suggesting. You want me to communicate with a Kraken, to explain a relocation plan, to a creature we've been trying to hunt. Got a better idea? Outside their submarine, the Kraken continued its patient vigil, waiting to see what these strange visitors would do next. The plan was working perfectly until everything went wrong at once. Suna had managed to establish basic communication with the Kraken using her bioacoustic equipment, sending simple patterns that seemed to calm the massive creature. The mother Kraken had even allowed their submarine to approach within 100 meters of the egg clutch. Then the power core overloaded. "Main systems are down," Suna shouted over the sparking consoles. "The bioacoustic transmitter is completely fried. We've lost all communication with the Kraken." Outside their submarine, the massive creature began to stir restlessly. Without the calming signals, it was becoming agitated again. Its tentacles started moving in aggressive patterns, and its bioelectric field intensified. "It thinks we're a threat again," Nala reported from her tactical station. "The creature is preparing to attack." Juan worked frantically at the pilot. Controls, but nothing responded. "Navigation is dead too. We're sitting ducks down here." The Kraken's massive form moved closer, its eyes glowing brighter in the darkness. They could feel the submarine vibrating as the creature's bioelectric pulses grew stronger. "We need to restore communication," Suna said desperately. "Without it, she'll destroy us to protect her eggs." "How long to fix the transmitter?" "Hours. Maybe days. We don't have the parts down here." Juan stared out at the Kraken, his mind racing through impossible options. Then he did what humans do best when faced with an unsolvable problem. He came up with a completely insane solution. "What if we don't need the equipment?" "What do you mean?" Nala asked. Juan was already moving toward the equipment locker, pulling out a deep-sea pressure suit. "I mean, what if I go out there and talk?" To her directly. Both women stared at him in horror. "You want to swim out there?" Suna's voice cracked. "To a creature that could swallow our entire submarine? In a pressure suit that wasn't designed for these depths?" "The suit will hold for maybe 20 minutes at this pressure," Nala added, "and that's if nothing goes wrong." Juan pulled on the heavy suit, checking seals and pressure gauges. "Then I better work fast." He grabbed a handful of neural dampener charges from their weapons locker. They were designed to be fired from the submarine's launchers, but with some creative rewiring, he could trigger them manually. The plan was to use these to calm her down, right? Make her less aggressive without hurting her. "So I'll swim up to her neural center and place them by hand." "That's suicide," Nala said flatly. "No creature survives a direct approach to a Kraken's head. The bioelectric field alone will kill you." "Maybe. Or maybe she'll realize I'm not trying to hurt her." Juan sealed his helmet and activated the suit's life support. "Humans are pretty good at doing things everyone says are impossible." He moved toward the submarine's airlock, but Suna grabbed his arm. "This is madness, even for a human. The pressure, the electricity, the sheer size of that thing. You'll be like an ant swimming up to an elephant." "Sometimes being small is an advantage," Juan replied. "She might not even notice me until I'm right next to her brain." "And if she does notice you?" Juan's grin was visible through his helmet visor. "Then you two better be ready with those plasma cutters. I'm counting on you to keep her tentacles busy while I work." The airlock cycled, and suddenly Juan was floating in the crushing darkness of Thalassa's depths. The Kraken loomed above him like a living mountain, its massive form blocking out what little light filtered down from above. His suit's tiny thrusters pushed him forward through the water, carrying him toward the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. Behind him, Suna and Nala watched through the submarine's windows, both amazed and terrified by what they were witnessing. "Only a human would try this," Nala whispered. "Only a human would be crazy enough to think it might work," Suna replied. Swimming through the crushing darkness, Juan felt like a tiny speck approaching a living mountain. The Kraken's massive head loomed above him, easily the size of a city block. Its bioelectric field made his suit's systems crackle and spark, but somehow he kept moving forward. The creature's enormous eye suddenly focused on him. For a terrifying moment, Juan found himself staring into an intelligence older than human civilization. The eye was curious rather than hostile, as if the Kraken was trying to understand what this tiny visitor wanted. "Easy, girl," Juan whispered into his helmet. "Calm. I'm here to help." His suit's thrusters pushed him along the creature's massive skull, searching for the neural cluster Suna had identified in her scans. The Kraken remained perfectly still, watching him with what seemed like fascination rather than fear. Behind him, tentacles the size of subway trains drifted peacefully in the current. Any one of them could have swatted him like a fly, but the great creature seemed to sense he meant no harm. "Target located," Juan reported to his team. "I can see the neural cluster. It's glowing like a Christmas tree." The cluster was a patch of specialized tissue that pulsed with soft blue light. This was the Kraken's emotional center, the part of its brain that controlled aggression and territorial behavior. Juan carefully attached the first neural dampener, a device no bigger than his fist. First charge placed, the creature isn't resisting. Through his suit's speakers, he could hear Suna's excited voice from the submarine. "The bioelectric readings are already changing. Whatever you're doing, it's working." Juan moved to the second neural site, his movements careful and deliberate. The Kraken's massive eye tracked his progress, but there was no hostility in that ancient gaze. If anything, the creature seemed grateful that someone finally understood what it needed. Second charge in place. "How are we looking?" "Incredible." Suna's voice was filled with wonder. "Her stress hormones are dropping rapidly. The territorial aggression markers are almost gone." The third and final dampener went into position near the base of the creature's skull. As soon as Juan activated the change was dramatic. The Kraken's entire body seemed to relax, its bioelectric field shifting from harsh red to gentle blue. "It's working," Nala's voice came through the comm, amazement clear even through her warrior's discipline. "She's completely calm." Juan used his thrusters to back away from the Kraken's head. The massive creature turned to follow him, but its movements were slow and peaceful now. The neural dampeners had done exactly what they were designed to do, removing the creature's aggressive instincts without harming it. "Phase 1 complete," Juan announced. "Now for the real work." Over the next 6 hours, something unprecedented happened in Thalassa's history. The docile Kraken actually helped relocate her own eggs. Using her massive tentacles, she carefully lifted each precious egg from the original nest, while Juan guided heavy-lift cargo submarines to the new location 50 miles away. Suna coordinated the operation from their submarine, her bioacoustic equipment now working perfectly to communicate with the calmed creature. The Kraken seemed to understand that these strange visitors were helping her find a safer home for her children. "Last egg is secure in the new trench," reported the cargo. "Sub-pilot. All thermal vents are active and stable. Perfect nursery conditions." The Kraken glided through the water to inspect her relocated clutch, her massive form moving with obvious satisfaction. The new trench was deeper, more isolated, and completely away from shipping lanes. Her children would be safe here. Back at the surface, the colonies celebrated their first peaceful night in months. Ships could sail safely again. Mining operations resumed. The terror that had gripped Thalassa was finally over. "Mission accomplished," Juan announced to Governor Thex's excited face on the communication screen. "One Kraken problem solved, 0 creatures harmed." "Impossible," Thex stammered. "How did you do what entire fleets could not accomplish?" Juan looked at his companions, Suna beaming with scientific triumph and Nala standing prouder than she had. "In weeks. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to realize you don't need to fight at all." 3 days after the Kraken relocation, Juan sat in his hotel room on Thalassa's main floating city, trying to process what had happened. News feeds across the galaxy were calling him everything from the Kraken Whisperer to the human who changed. Everything. Interview requests poured in from every major network, and the bounty payment had made him wealthy beyond his wildest dreams. But the real surprise came with a knock on his door. Suna stood in the hallway, looking nervous in a way he'd never seen during their dangerous mission. She'd traded her practical research gear for a simple blue dress that brought out her eyes. "Got a minute?" she asked, fidgeting with a datapad in her hands. "Sure, come in. What's on your mind, Doc?" She entered but didn't sit down, instead pacing, near the window that overlooked Thalassa's endless ocean. "I've been thinking about what you did down there, swimming out to face the Kraken alone, just doing what needed to be done." No, it was more than that. She turned to face him, her scientific mind struggling with emotions she couldn't quite categorize. I've worked with brave people before. Military types, deep-sea explorers, research teams in dangerous places. But what you did, it wasn't just courage, it was compassion. Juan raised an eyebrow. Compassion? You saw a mother protecting her children and chose to help instead of destroy. Most people, faced with a creature that dangerous, would have found a way to kill it. You found a way to understand it. Her voice grew softer. I've never met anyone who combines tactical brilliance with that kind of heart. Before Juan could respond, another knock interrupted them. Nala stood in the doorway, her massive Orcs frame somehow managing to look uncertain. She wore traditional warrior ceremonial armor, polished to a mirror shine. I apologize for the interruption, Nala said formally, but I must speak with you, Juan. The awkward silence stretched, as both women realized they'd had the same idea. This is about what happened in the deep, Nala continued, her usual gruff demeanor replaced by something almost vulnerable. Among my people, we respect strength above all else, but strength without wisdom is just brutality. She stepped closer, her yellow reptilian eyes serious. You showed me something I thought impossible. How to win without destroying. How to turn an enemy into an ally. In Orcs culture, we would call this the highest form of warrior skill. Suna crossed her arms. So you're here to thank him? I am here to court him, Nala said bluntly, causing both humans to freeze. In my culture, when a warrior proves themselves superior, it is appropriate to seek bonding. Court him? Suna's voice rose an octave. I was here first. The order of arrival does not determine worthiness, Nala replied, her warrior instincts making her stand straighter. Juan found himself in the middle of the most bizarre situation of his life. Two alien women from completely different species were essentially arguing over him in his hotel room. Ladies, maybe we should slow down here, he said, raising his hands peacefully. This is all pretty sudden, is it? Suna asked. We risked our lives together. We saved an entire world. That creates bonds. Deep bonds, Nala agreed, surprising everyone by nodding at Suna. The humans showed courage that would be legendary among my people, and wisdom that impressed even you, scientist. The tension in the room shifted, as both women realized they weren't actually enemies. They were both drawn to the same qualities in Juan, just for different reasons. So what happens now? Juan asked, genuinely curious about the answer. Now, Suna said with a slight smile, you get to figure out if you're interested in the most complicated relationship situation in galactic history. Humans are known for embracing complications, Nala observed. It is one of your most admirable traits. Outside the window, Thalassa's twin moons reflected off the calm ocean where the Kraken now peacefully tended her relocated eggs, unaware that her rescue had created an entirely new kind of adventure for her unlikely hero. 6 months later, Juan woke up to the sound of gentle waves and alien laughter echoing through his underwater home. The transparent dome structure sat on the edge of Thalassa's continental shelf, offering a perfect view of the ocean depths where something remarkable had become routine. Morning, sleepyhead, Suna called from the kitchen area, her voice mixing with the bubbling sounds of their coffee maker. The tour groups start arriving in an hour. Through the dome's curved walls, Juan could see Nala in the outdoor garden, her scaled hands carefully tending to hybrid kelp that grew in neat rows along the seafloor. She traded her warrior armor for practical work clothes, though she still carried herself with military precision. How many tourists today? Juan asked, stretching as he joined Suna at their breakfast table. 347, she replied, checking her datapad. 2 different galactic news crews, a documentary team from the Vega system, and at least 50 xenobiologists who want to study our miraculous interspecies cooperation. Outside, their home, the reason for all the attention, glided gracefully through the water. The mother Kraken, now affectionately called Mama by the locals, had become Thalassa's most famous resident. Her massive form moved peacefully among the thermal vents, occasionally playing with her recently hatched offspring. The babies are getting bigger, Juan observed, watching several young Krakens, each only the size of a small ship, playfully wrestling with each other near their mother. Mama's been bringing them closer to the surface, Suna said excitedly. I think she's showing them off like any proud parent. The whole situation had become a galactic sensation. The story of the human who befriended the galaxy's most feared sea monster had spread to every corner of known space. Tourists flocked to Thalassa just to see the tamed Kraken, though Juan always corrected them that she wasn't tamed, just understood. The Galactic Council wants to give you another medal, Nala announced as she entered through the airlock, seawater dripping from her scales. This time for revolutionary approaches to interspecies conflict resolution. I already have enough. Medals? Juan said, gesturing to the wall where various awards hung next to family photos showing him with his two very different wives. Besides, I didn't do anything special. You solved a problem that stumped entire military fleets, Suna pointed out, using nothing but common sense and human stubbornness. And you did it without firing a single shot, Nala added, settling into a specially designed chair that accommodated her larger frame. My former commanders still can't understand how. A tour boat approached their dome, filled with wide-eyed visitors from a dozen different species. Juan waved at them through the transparent wall, causing excited chatter among the tourists. Some of them were taking pictures. Others were pointing at the peaceful Kraken family in the distance. Look at them, Suna laughed. They act like you're some kind of miracle worker. They want to understand the secret, Nala explained, how a single human accomplished what their greatest warriors could not. Juan shrugged, the same casual gesture that had become his trademark response to praise. That's just how we do things. When everyone else says something's impossible, humans usually take that as a challenge. A young Kraken, curious about the visitors, swam closer to the tour boat. The tourists gasped in amazement as the creature gently bumped against their vessel like a friendly whale, showing no aggression despite its enormous size. See? Juan gestured toward the scene. Once you stop seeing monsters and start seeing neighbors, everything gets easier. Is that the secret? Asked a reporter through their communication system. Human philosophy? Nah, Juan replied, pulling both his wives closer as they watched their underwater paradise thrive. The secret is that sometimes the craziest idea is the smartest one, and humans, we're definitely crazy enough to try anything. Above them, Thalassa's surface sparkled with ships from across the galaxy, all coming to witness the impossible made routine. Below them, ancient creatures played peacefully in their protected home, proof that understanding could triumph over fear. It was, everyone agreed, a very human solution to an inhuman problem.